Well, first I must say namaskar and good evening to all of you, special invitees and guests, especially Mr. Ashok and Mr. Mati. Of course, Ms. Nandakumar is known to me a little more, and it started to the rest of you, ladies and gentlemen, who are here as participants, as students, as business leaders. I know there will be a lot more people who will join. We have had 250 registrations, I hear. The important thing for you to know is that we curated this theme today of the long-term future of water for India, essentially because you hear reports in newspapers, simple reports sometimes, of how there was a stone throwing incident at a water supply board or a Jal Nigam in Aurangabad or in Nashik or in Nagpur. It has happened in Bangalore too. Now, you complain sometimes about how you do not get more than, say, 2 days of water supply in your house. And therefore, your father or you yourself, if you're a working professional, you decide to dig a borewell, to create a sump tank, you create an overhead tank in your house, and then you put your own filtration system with an RO or some other filter. And therefore, you become like a water supply board. You are a mini Jal Nigam yourself. Is that right? Many of you, I'm sure, will agree with me on this, that in your house or your apartment, you're doing all of these things. You go further. You decide, okay, I will put an STP system and see that you invest money in the STP system. Today, our Mr. Nandakumar has decided, he's the CEO, by the way, of something called the International Council for Clean Water. Many of you may have not
International Center, just to correct you.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. International Center for Clean Water. Now, many of you would not even have heard of the center. Now, what is the center doing? It has a 10,000 square feet, very large, wonderful space it has within the campus of IIT Madras in Chennai. What does the center do? What is the center's concern on clean water? Why has he invited Mr. Mati today, who is the Principal Secretary for Water Resources from the Odisha government, who has done some very distinguished work in simply the last, say, 1 year or so. He got 24/7 water. It was national news when it for Bhubaneswar and then for Puri. I remember even some of the leaders from IGBC were saying, wow, Puri has got 24/7 water. 24/7 water, not for 2 hours, for 2 days in a week. If he has achieved this, is that good for us? Is that what we want in all our cities? Will all our cities be able to achieve such a thing is another question that Mr. Mati will possibly enlighten us upon. Mr. Ashok comes from some policy understanding of water. He has been working on it for the last, say, 20 years. So if you're a youngster, you are, say, 20 today. By the time you become 40 or 45, you're married and you have, say, 2 children. What is the situation on water in your city? What is the situation in your company on water? If your company is very dependent on water for its manufacturing and such things, how are you going to challenge that or solve that if you're a business manager or if you are the CEO of your company? The Prem Jain Memorial Trust, for now the 36, I think it's about 38 or 39 months from November 2018, the months that Dr. Jain passed away. I had the unique privilege of knowing him for nearly, therefore, about 16 or 17 years from 2000 or so. I realized there was a void, when he passed away. He had taken from no more than about 400 million square feet or so, he had taken the IGBC, the Indian Green Building Council of the CII, to about 5.5 billion square feet, 5,500 million square feet. For him to achieve the first 1 billion square feet, he said at one point in time in 2008 or 9, for every single Indian, I must have 1 square feet of a green building. He set it as an emotional charge. It took us 4 years to reach that figure. But from that 1 billion to reach the next 4.5 billion square feet didn't take too much time under his leadership and that of many people who are today in the Indian Green Building Council. When he passed away, that void had to be filled. Payal and I spoke one day in a coffee shop in Hyderabad, immediately, I think about 2 weeks after his demise. And we told ourselves, we'll try and see how we can keep the flag going. by starting a foundation. And therefore, the Prem Jain Memorial Trust was born sometime in December, probably, of that year, 2018. Since then, we have had many such festivals of celebration of thought, of reflection, of insights, perspectives, unique things that unique leaders have brought. We must have had easily over 300 such leaders who have spoken on this forum. And the Prem Jain Memorial Trust has been a thought leader for organizations like the Indian Green Building Council, ISRE, ASHRE, and I would say even the Indian Plumbing Association and many such industrial associations that have existed in India. I must also say that the Prem Jain Memorial Trust is a non-profit, but a for industry, not-for-profit association. In fact, I believe Ms. Nandakumar asked me this question 3 or 4 days ago, saying, "Hey, you have a lot of companies in this trust. So what are these companies doing here?" The important thing for us to realize, all of you, many of you who are here as participants today, are people who have been coming into the Prem Jain Memorial Trust's meetings in the past. And you have seen how these companies, many of them, and I'm not going to take names of these companies here, are people who have inspired such change and definitive directions on sustainability for India in the last 10 years. The names are all there in the website, and I'm not going to take those names. None of these companies have, and I can tell you as a founder trustee myself, have supported us with money so far. And we have not sought any financial support from any of these companies because the PJMT wanted to remain independent of its views and be able to support and mentor, facilitate, and enable, where possible, industry leaders in their own thought directions. Payal Jain will speak a little more about what these things mean for us. I must also tell you that the Mahotsav itself, this Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav, as we called it, was born because uniquely, Dr. Prem Jain was born on January 26th. He studied at the BHU much later. He was very deeply connected to his mother, and who lived a very ripe old age. She made lots of things happen. She sold jewelry when, at a certain point in time to ensure that he gets good education. He then goes to the United States, spends nearly about 10, 11 years, but he comes back to his country. Comes back in 1969. He was the first Indian member of ISRE, which he founded in his house, which grew into a very, very large organization today. You can all check ISHRAE as youngsters, and you'll see what it means. And if you are mechanical engineers in this participating today, it'll be very useful for you to also consider becoming a member of ISRE. This Mahotsav, therefore, is celebrating a whole lot of those ideas of Dr. Jain. Dr. Jain used to say to every passing class that he taught every Saturday at the SPNA for nearly 43 or 44 years, that to be skilled at anything starts with first being humane and compassionate. If we know why we learn what we learn and are clear of the larger vision and our own objective, then we won't simply be good at what we do. We can potentially aspire to be great at it. I remember myself sitting in one of those meetings. I'd gone to Delhi for something or the other, and that morning he was going over to his class. So he said, "Why don't you also join me?" And so I went and spent some 1.5 hours just sitting there in the back bench as an observer, while he was doing this class with these students. His face would light up. If anyone has sat when he was teaching, he would be beaming. And anytime I would introduce Dr. Jain, and I had learned this little trick to make him happy, I would say first that he's a teacher. Then I would say that he is a CEO of some Spectral, and he is also chairperson of some IGBC and so on. So the point is that he was first a lovely person who understood what it means to shape the destiny of this country. The national anthem says, Bhagya Bharata Vidhata, the shaper of the destiny of Bharata. In that sense, every one of these leaders present here are all shapers of such destiny. Dr. Jain definitely was. I've taken more time than I should. It's 6:13. While Jain, I sometimes get, like many of us who have known him, we get carried away with this whole business of talking about Dr. Jain. Jane, what would you want to say quickly, and after which maybe
Nothing. I will just welcome all our guests here to the 4th Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav. And today is our second day. This will continue till the 29th. So we have a calendar from 23rd to 29th. And we're hoping more youngsters, more students, more working professionals will engage with us going forward. That is what the mission of the trust
we lost you there.
And we'd like to show you a short little we'd like to show you a short film which will give you a little background about the mission of the trust, why it was formed, and the kind of work we are doing and hope to continue doing. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Payal. Yatin, over to you. The speakers here and the rest of you, request you to listen to this because it will give you a good sense of what the man represented, what the trust represents today.
As far as the safety and well-being of our ecosystem is concerned. With rampant urbanization, environmental degradation, and grave consequences of climate change, an overall path correction has become imperative to the existence of all living forms on Earth. Should we continue with the abuse of our precious natural resources? Should we use technology and innovation to conserve them? Can we reduce energy usage with a mindful approach and renewable sources? Dr. Prem Jain anticipated many such challenges we are facing today way back in the 70s. Over half a century of dedication and tireless efforts, he thought and spoke a language that was way ahead of its time. His passion and commitment to his Janmabhoomi and to his own mother ran equally deep.
From my earliest childhood, it's been ingrained with me that truth will always win, what we call Satyamev Jayate. She also gave us the love for all living creatures, trees and plants, the message of non-violence. And ever since my childhood, I've always respected that all life forms are equally important.
The last 10 years saw the culmination of his efforts by remarkably shaping the green movement in India, and his countless admirers began to refer to him as father of green buildings in India. The green revolution he started is the foundation of his legacy. In 2018, Prem Jain Memorial Trust was conceived to carry on his mission and founded upon his values, ideals and vision of a greener Bharat. Today, the Trust enjoys guidance of the best minds of the industry, champions of sustainability, corporate change makers and academicians. PJMT is set on its journey to create, establish and maintain sustainability directions through education, recognition and rewards that nurture future generations.
The best gift you can give to the person is educate him or her. Because then, wherever they are, they will be able to earn and flourish in life.
Each year begins with the Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav, a week-long celebration of sustainability, and our annual flagship event, Prem Jain Memorial Address. The Trust organizes a spectrum of green initiatives which fill the week of January 26, Dr. Jain's birthday week. The Mahotsav is celebrated across the country with immense enthusiasm by Green Crusaders and our partner institutions through an array of sustainability-driven initiatives and activities. Having deep roots with Indian Green Building Council, the Trust has worked in tandem with IGBC and its chapters. PJMT takes great pride in partnering with esteemed partner societies, corporate leaders and premier universities across India, working closely with the common mission of creating a greener Earth. If we can change the way we think about buildings, maybe what we build will change the world.
Great, there you are. 6:18, the floor is yours, Mr. Nandkumar. we will now listen to you and you see how you want to steer the conversation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hari, and a very good day to all listeners. I thank Prem Jain Memorial Trust for this opportunity and privilege to chair this session. My association with the trust is very recent, but it's hard to miss their energy and commitment to creating a sustainable world for all of us. I understand that the audience is largely citizens with a high percentage of youth. We don't know, it could be a lot of professionals as well. And I want to assure you that my full-time engagement in the water sector is only about the last 3 years, and through the International Center for Clean Water. By the way, I learned a lot in the last 3 years, but I would like to keep this session somewhat less technical and more focused on real-world challenges and issues so that all can participate. Hopefully, at the end of the session, all of us will appreciate the challenges involved in providing clean water to communities and therefore be willing to bear part of the burden and start recycling and conserving water on their own. If that feeling is achieved, I think that could be one of the takeaways today. We have on the panel two stalwarts who have done, in their own way, contributed considerably towards India's water security. Sri G. Mati Vatanan, IAS, on completion of his post-graduation in mechanical engineering, joined Odisha Cadre IAS in 1994. He had varied experience in the government, Odisha, and is currently the Principal Secretary, Housing and Urban Development Department. He has spearheaded sustainable fecal sludge and septage management in Odisha using a decentralized but comprehensive approach to prevent contamination of rivers and water bodies with fecal sludge. That itself is a remarkable achievement. We also know that Odisha faces the brunt of cyclonic weather every year. Thanks to his efforts, we don't hear much of damage to property of human lives due to these cyclones. And as Sri Mati once said, Odisha can handle a cyclone like Sachin Tendulkar can handle any bowler. So that's the level of mastery they have achieved, which I think something we could all learn from. And many of you would have recently heard about that Odisha had pioneered clean water on tap 24/7. For me, this is a dream come true. If we could do that across the rest of the country, it would be a fantastic achievement. So we look forward to learning from him on the challenges that we faced and providing this service to the people in Puri. Mr. Ashok Natarajan is the ex-CEO of Tamil Nadu Water Investment Company Limited, TWIC, a joint venture promoted by the government of Tamil Nadu with infrastructure leasing and financial services. He has a bachelor's degree in engineering and postgraduate in management and has been involved in the Indian electric and water utilities for the past 35 years, specializing in water management, non-revenue water reduction, 24/7 water supply with integrated MIS. He serves as a domain expert with the Government of India and is a regular contributor at workshops at IIT Madras, Smart Cities, on decentralized water solutions. So that could be one more area we could look at today. Their profiles in detail will be shared in the chat box, I'm told. So with the limited time allotted, we will proceed because we can't do justice to their accomplishments orally in this forum. I thank both of them for instantly accepting the invitation to be part of this panel today and to share their views. So if I may indulge, before starting the panel discussion, I was thinking about some interesting facts to talk about which can connect us with water emotionally, because I think that's very important when we come to managing water, what kind of emotional connect we can have. So I tried to pick up some strange facts about water. Many of you would be aware of it. For example, how does it exist in all three states of matter, solid, liquid, and vapor at the same time? There's something unique about this liquid, right? Why does it expand when cooled below 4 degrees centigrade and makes ice float on water? I think maybe I can answer that. It protects the marine creatures from Arctic cold. They can survive in the warm water beneath the ice. Why does it have a high boiling point at 100 degrees centigrade despite its low molecular weight? I'm saying many heavier molecules are gases at room temperature, and here we have water, just hydrogen and oxygen, boiling at 100 degrees centigrade. Something again strange and unique about it. Why does it have such a high surface tension? Maybe I can answer that too. This makes water rise against gravity in the trees, several hundred meters tall through capillary action, and makes life possible. Why does it have such a high specific heat? I mean, these are some of the imponderables. I'm not going to answer all of that, and probably requires experts in a different forum. All I wanted to say is that water is just not any liquid, any other liquid. It seems to be the very essence of life on this planet. And despite all the science and technology around us, we still know very little about it. Scientific experiments have shown that water has memory, and the way the molecules arrange themselves can store energy. And that may be the reason why they can be solid, liquid, and gas at the same time, because they have different energies stored between the molecules. And is there any wonder, therefore, that our planet is 2/3 made of water, and our own brain is 70% water? So a lot of things that we talk about do today is thanks to this liquid. So friends, water is just not any liquid. It is special, it is life-sustaining. And though we've been taking it for granted, I think time has come for us to pay more than lip service to sensible water management. More so in Indian context, where we have 18% of the world's population and barely 4% of the world's water resources. And water scarcity today is both, in my opinion, a source and the effect of climate change. Why is it a source? We use diesel to pump water over long distances and transport it in tankers, which adds to the global warming, which in turn creates unpredictable weather and floods and droughts and scarcity and so on. It's a vicious cycle. So I'm sure all of you are waiting to hear from our experts as to how they have handled the challenges and how we can collectively address the future challenges in water management and security. So with this, I would like to start by asking Mr. Ashok Natarajan. Sir, you have worked extensively on water governance, I presume, and have seen firsthand the models implemented in advanced countries. How can we improve urban water security? The audience would be largely urban, so can we look at how do we improve urban water security? By that I mean providing adequate quantity of appropriate quality water for different applications for people living in cities. So if you could give us some views of yours on this.
Thank you, Nandu. Let me just begin by telling that water represents the most challenging and complex risks faced by man. There is no one solution which can be as a template to any city, urban local body, or rural. It has to be a combination. It has to be customized to a specific requirement of a community, or urban local body, or a rural habitation. Because even if you take India or the developed countries, there's so much of difference. Floods and droughts, pollutions, water conflict, combined with growing demand for food and energy, rapid urbanization, migration pressures, and climatic changes are potentially catastrophic. So actually, water can be leveraged for an impactful and catalytic change, which is very important. As I can see in India, the model that will work for typically a city management is for a drinking water purpose is the model which I think Mr. Madhi Badaran would speak about it, is what has been successfully implemented in Puri, where they have involved a community-led exercise to really bring in the demand management measures as well as to bring in the revenue enhancement and monitoring. I would say it will depend upon the context, whether it's a developed world. For example, if you compare any parts of Asia, Singapore has gone on a different route. They rate water policy to be higher than the financial policy of the country. Every other policy, as Lee Kuan Yew put it, has to bend in front of the water. So they actually went in for a large initiation of desalination and water reuse, because they were otherwise dependent on surface water coming in from Malaysia. So they had to go for security. Whereas non-PEM, for example, a very lower GDP country state compared to India itself, has got a different issue. They have a plenty of surface water. They are sitting on the Mekong estuary. They have plenty of water, but they also have pollution issues. But what they did wonderfully well was to build a resilience and a water resilience program. From a loss of about 77%, they brought it down to about 7% in about 15 years' time. And they had a visionary leadership fund. So my important take in this whole thing, if at all Orissa is successful or JASCO is successful, a visionary and a mission-like, really a governance mechanism with a leadership is very important to drive the water sector. And that is the only solution for the country itself. It has to be customized. Thank you, Nandu.
Thank you, Ashok. So you are talking about context-specific action to be taken. Singapore is different, Phnom Penh is different, Chennai, Bangalore would be different in India. And you feel that unless there's a missionary approach to this, it's going to be very challenging. So if I may ask Mr. Mati, what would be his views on this subject, and which he seems to have successfully achieved, providing fresh water 24/7, water on tap that one can drink in Puri. So would you like to share your experience in achieving this landmark and the challenges it poses in ensuring sustainability of this in the future? And how are the costs recovered and how are the people benefited from this?
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. I thank Dr. Prem Jain Trust for giving me this opportunity to share our experiences in the water sector. And you were kind enough to mention that about Puri's success in becoming India's first 24/7 drink from tap water supply city. So in fact, Puri is not the beginning and Puri is not the end. Puri is in the middle. We started with Bhubaneswar. So the journey, in fact, our journey started way back in 2017, when we decided that we should ensure that pipe water supply reaches every household in the state. It's not specific to any city. We thought of covering the entire state. That's again an inspiration from Amrut, which has a mandate to provide pipe water supply to every household in the Amrut limited number of cities. At the country level, there are 500 cities covered under the Amrut mission. So in Odisha, there are 9 Amrut cities and the program covers that. But there are 109 non-Amrut cities in Odisha. So who would cover that? If Amrut can cover only 9, remaining 105 cities who would cover. So we came up with a scheme, state scheme called Basudha, so that the access to clean water, pipe water supply at household level is achieved in the entire state, not leaving anyone behind on saturation mode, right? We work with the philosophy that people have a right to water, basic right to water, fundamental right to water. So that's the reason that when it comes to water, we don't think about the investment that comes later. When water is like air, we don't think that how much it would cost to give a clean air. So it's like health, it's a preventive health. When we construct a hospital, we don't think about how much it would cost, how much it would cost to run the hospital, operate and maintain, how much would be the hospital care, health care. It's like a water is a preventive health care. You have to invest on it. We should not be talking about the cost recovery. When we lay the road, we don't talk about the cost recovery. There are several such public investments on which we don't talk about the cost recovery. Providing, you said, or Dr. Hariharan was mentioning that every house is a Jal board, Jal Nigam, they are running a Jal Nigam. Every house has a overhead water tank. Every house has a pump, sump, or a system. Then over and above, they also boil it every time and then drink it. Why? There is a huge distrust or lack of trust on the public water. Because we don't invest in public water, individuals are forced to invest in their own water. It's like constructing a private hospital by every household. Should it be done? it should be the government's responsibility. In developed countries, you don't find water tank above the buildings. It's only one public water tank that provides for the entire city 24/7. Why not we meet the this most basic fundamental need of the citizens? That was the thought. We started the journey. It's our vision of our Honorable Chief Minister, Mr. Naveen Patnaik. He has given us the mandate that we need to provide this, come what may, whatever be the cost. This is the non-negotiable thing. So with that mandate, we started our journey in 2016-17, and we took up more than 900 projects across all the cities in one go. In fact, before 2016, we used to invest about 200 crore per year. From 2017 onwards, our investment is almost 6 times, 7 times more in a year. And in the last 3-4 years, we invested about 4,000 crores in the urban water alone, leave alone the rural. So that kind of investment has gone, and then we started this and the universal coverage. We are now more than 90% achievement level in providing the pipe water supply to every household. We have about 10 lakh, roughly about 10 lakh households in the entire state. And so far we have provided pipe water connection to more than 9.6, 9.7 lakh houses in the last 4 years. We started from 2.5, 3 lakh. And then after reaching that, then we thought that we are achieving that universal coverage of pipe water supply. What next? Then we focused on the quality. What about the quality? Quality also is equally important. So we can say that we are providing good quality, but what do we mean by good? What is better? What is best? Or what is not good? So it has to be with reference to a standard protocol. What is that standard? Then we look for IS standard that governs here. So we found IS 10,500 governs the water quality standards that provides the protocol. Then we adopted that and then said that our urban water supply should meet the parameters under the IS 10,500. If we can provide that quality water at the consumer end, not at the treatment end, not at the supply end, at the delivery point at the household tap level, if we can provide that quality, then why should people have individual water tank? Why should they have a water filter? Why should they procure water bottle or water can? In fact, if you go to any city, any family, LIG or MIG, a part of their monthly budget goes for water. It's very sad state. They have to earmark an amount for water and then earmark an amount for medicines. Water and medicine constitute a considerable amount of a family's budget, leave alone the children's education, food and other things. So we thought that we should invest in water so that people are not compelled to invest in water. So that's the vision with which we worked, and we started this drink from tap. In fact, we have not started with the 24/7, and our programs are not 24/7. That means it is not aimed at providing 24/7. It is aimed at providing drink from tap. That drink from tap mineral water quality you can ensure only when it is a 24/7. It is that 24/7 is a prerequisite, one of the conditions to achieve drink from tap. So our program is drink from tap program, drink from tap mission. So we started with Bhubaneswar, Puri, 17 other cities. Work is going on. Cuttack, we have launched two zones last month. This month, Berhampur is being launched. So we have a massive, ambitious program of completing all these, about 20 cities by December 2023. It has been a very exciting and fulfilling journey.
So can you tell me, it's a fantastic achievement. You're saying 90% plus houses have been provided, but that's only quantity. But now you're talking about IS 10,500 on tap at the consumer end. But how do you think this would be sustainable around the year? I mean, what we are seeing is non-availability of water, non-availability of clean water, contamination of the groundwater or surface water. How do you ensure that your supply is consistently maintained in the near future? Did you face challenges? Do you foresee any challenges?
Sir, there will be challenges, sir. We will face it. We can overcome the challenges.
Okay.
So we are not threatened by it. We know that there will be challenges, sir. The water supply Water supply is one utility where the entire asset is beneath the ground, under the ground. You cannot see anything visually. Whatever happens below the ground, you will not get to know. There are millions of joints. There could be millions of leakage points, and the contamination can happen anywhere. But in spite of that, we are underwriting for the quality.
Okay.
That is the kind of quality you have to ensure. That is the kind of protocol you have to put in place. That's the kind of monitoring system you have to put in place. And it is doable. We have demonstrated that in Puri. We are demonstrating that in Bhubaneswar, Cuttack, Berhampur. And it is a doable thing. Only thing we are not attempting. I think we need to have a huge public will and political will for that.
Okay, so let me toss this to Mr. Ashok, and what from his experience, Mr. Ashok, what do you think would be the question marks on sustainability? I'm deliberately provoking you to come up with some challenges, because earlier, if we can identify them, the better we can deal with them. So what do you think can go wrong? Or from your experience, if you could critically look at the situation, because we are looking at how can it be adopted in the rest of the country, that we can come to later. But in Orissa itself, if we were to extend it beyond Puri to Bhubaneswar to other cities, what is the way ahead for ensuring 24/7, which is a necessary condition, highest 10,500 quality water on tap for every citizen? That's the goal. And Mr. Mati is very clear he's going to achieve it. But what are your views on this?
My views, Nanda Kumar, is that any of our cities are actually not having a proper methodology of water management right now. It's all reactive behavior that has been going on in operating utilities. If you take, other than Puri, if you take any of the big cities in India or the second level cities, third level cities, the losses, the technical and the commercial losses, which constitute the non-revenue water loss, is something close to 50 to 60%. I don't have to tell you, many people hide these facts, but it is true. And the problem is, as Mr. Madhivanan says, all our water programs can be very sustainable if you just attack the technical issues in this water loss program. That is the technical loss management. That is your leakages, your customer database, customer services, discrepancy in your billing and reading, classification of customers correctly, ensuring everybody is provided equitable water supply. If you can do, and you can also, if countries have proved it. For example, I was told in Puri, the collection rates are more than 95% collection efficiencies from nothing.
100%, sir.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm a bit outdated, almost. So it's a benchmark. What other cities are doing, they are just not providing the type of understanding of these things that are required. They are not willing to learn. They are not willing to correct the systems. They are not willing. All that they want is CapEx built infrastructure, building very large treatment facilities, laying down pipelines, but not looking at the last mile connectivity and the customer itself. So I would say your cost recovery will automatically happen. If you are able to bring down your losses from 50% to say about even 25%, you are releasing as much as 25%. For example, I know, for example, Delhi loses per year about 500 crores on non-revenue water loss. These are cities like Delhi, Bangalore, there's large scale metering. I can't even equate that in Chennai and other places because there is no metering except for some commercial operations. The losses could be even 60, 70%. The commercial customers could be drawing a lot more water under a flat tariff and not being billed for it. So my take in the whole thing is to have sustainability, is to have good technical, commercial and planning function, run a utility like a utility, not like this thing. And that is one of the important things, is to form a step down company, like what Orissa has done to set up the Watco company. In those years, Tata Steel set up this Justco company, which is a utility company. So you become, your bread and butter comes from servicing the customers and making technically a better system, and you delight the customers so they actually come and put the money. Today, people, for example, most of the cities which operate on flat rate tariff, they pay such a pittance. They are so fed up with the service. They do not know what is the water that is coming, what is the quality that is coming. So this sustainability can surely happen. And I'm very proud to tell you this new Amrit program is driving towards it. I'm a small member in that team of the CPHO dropping these guidance. And I find that they have given incentives to all the states, urban local bodies to really show that they can have recovery. And all that they are saying is take a benchmark of 20% NRW. You might have 100%, 80%, 70%, but strive in a few years. You get the money, you build it, but you make strong systems. That is my take on the sustainability as far as India is concerned.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from this is that if it is pursued with a missionary zeal, I think you used this term, Ashok, earlier, and Mr. Mati also mentioned about the CM support he had and the whole commitment that the government had. And so that's the first thing I'm seeing, there's a missionary zeal behind it. And the last mile, you used the word last mile, Samati used about the consumer end, delivery. So that is the clincher. And if these two are focused upon, and naturally the non-revenue water and everything, it becomes a necessary condition to deliver the water at the customer. If you focus at the end of the line, everything upstream should get addressed, is what I'm hearing. And does it mean, Mr. Madi, that you're charging for water per liter used, and it is sort of a financially sustainable venture for the state government today?
As Mr. Ashok has mentioned, that when we talk about the sustainability, cost recovery, the leakages play a very great role, big role. Most of the cities, we can say it's about 50%, as he mentioned. In Puri, for example, in Puri, the loss, the NRW was 47% when we did the baseline survey before our mission. And with the drink from tap, we have achieved 15%. Now it's currently 15%. And we had to plug all the leakages beneath the ground, all the old pipe network, all the house connection joints, all those in policy level, implementation level, interventions are required, and it is doable. If you can address 50% water loss, that means you are creating additional, in capacity. You are doubling the capacity on perpetual basis, recurring basis. How much saving? Then you put, you have to regulate the usage. Or the entire, all our cities, 100% connections, metered. So they pay for their use, whatever is the usage, they pay for it. And for your kind information, I can share that all households are metered in Puri, including the slum households. All slum households are provided with pipe water supply with drink from tap quality, metered, and all slum households pay their water dues properly. We have a system called Jalsati. They are from the women self-help groups. We have engaged them on for the consumer end management at the community level as our partner. They act as a bridge between the water supply authority and the consumers, and they are trained. They work for incentive honorarium, and it is performance linked. They go to every household. They do the meter reading. They collect the water charges. They are all provided with the handheld device, the MPOS machine. And they also take up field quality survey, basic quality testing they do. So they are adequately incentivized. So since they are from the community, they are able to ensure 100% revenue collection. There are no defaulters.
Fantastic.
And if you can ensure that commercial loss is brought to the minimum, technical loss is brought to the minimum, then I think we are towards the sustainable system.
Okay. I think this was implemented in July, if I'm not wrong, last year in Puri.
This is commissioned.
Okay.
Commissioned. The system is commissioned, dedicated to public. Otherwise, it started in 2019.
So have you seen any reduction in usage, wastage reduction, and significant yes, because of...
I said Puri had 45% non-revenue, NRW.
Non-revenue water is reduced, but I'm talking about the demand side, where the consumers have consciously reduced their water usage.
After metering, the consumption has come down drastically. After metering and the billing cycle started, then people have become very, very responsible, very conscious about it. And when this is anchored by their own community representative, then the compliance is 100%.
Okay, so fantastic. So this is kind of a success story. Do you think it can be replicated in other states, or what do other states like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, for example, need to do? One or two high-level thoughts that come to your mind if we have to embark on a mission like this. What do you think should change?
See, the ingredients which we have in Puri as part of the drink from tap mission, the same ingredients we follow in other cities also. Only thing, as I said, that Puri is not the beginning of the journey and not the end of the journey. It is one of these cities. The same system we follow in Bhubaneswar, in Cuttack, in Berhampur, in other cities where we are working. So everywhere it is working. Only thing, Puri has got the limelight, and it's being discussed in the forums. Otherwise, we have similar experiences. And our Puri experience has been studied by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, this CPHO, and they have documented this as a best practice. And all these ingredients have actually been incorporated in the national policy. Amrut 2.0 contains all these ingredients: reduction in non-revenue water, the community connect, Jalsati community partnership, the metering, drink from tap 24/7. All these things are part of the national policy now, Amrut 2.0. And we Ministry, Government of India organized a national workshop in Bhubaneswar and organized a field visit for all the water utilities across the country. The entire country has converged in Bhubaneswar in the month of November. All COs have been here, all secretaries have been here. They visited Puri, understood the process, and then they have been inspired, and we also organize a number of training programs for them. We are also supporting other states and other cities.
Okay.
If I may ask, is it okay?
Yeah. Sure, Doctor.
Mr. Mati, what is the per kiloliter cost that I pay if I'm in a slum, if I'm a middle class household, or is it based on my consumption? What is approximately that cost per kiloliter that you have now in Puri?
Sir, is it you are talking about the operating cost or
No,
the capex?
the cost that I pay as a consumer, as a water consumer.
Oh, that in fact, no, we have the slab system.
Correct.
So we have maybe so up to see, if we can say family of 4 would have to pay 125, 150 rupees. So that's the 125 to 140, 150 rupees.
Per thousand liters.
No, exactly. I cannot say that how much is the volumetry, but on an average, the consumption would be of that level.
And what did it cost you as a capital cost for the same 1,000 liters? What did it cost the Puri city or your water utility when you create?
When we talk about the capex is made over a very long period of time. Since it's not a greenfield project, it's a brownfield project. So there is already an existing infrastructure built over a long period of time. Only thing, those infrastructures are very old. Some are very old, some are very new. Some would require replacement, and there could be some gaps. So our investment in capex would be to close those gaps and upgrade the old systems. Decade old, the perforated pipes, all those things, and we have to do a complete scanning. We have done that. And then another very, very important thing, in fact, that's cited as one of the best practices, is that most of the states have the policy that individual consumer connection is the consumer's responsibility. So they are supposed to take the connection from the ferrule point, from the street line. So what happens when that responsibility is given to the individual household? They have to make their own investment, they have to bring their own contractor, and they have to take their own connection after getting the sanction from the public authorities. They have to go to the municipality to get the road cutting permission. They pay 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees for that road cutting and road restoration charge. And then they engage a contractor and they take up that. And they go for a low cost, because if it is a private investment, then It would be the I tend to reduce my expenditure. So they do not go for a standardized material. The contractor will go for a non-standardized item, and then they will also engage a workman of low cost, untrained, semi-trained, unlicensed. So what happens? When they puncture the government pipe, the street pipeline, and put up a substandard material, so every ferrule point connection becomes a potential contamination point. That is where the contamination takes place. So treatment everywhere it is same, sir. We maintain almost, there is nothing great about treatment. We all follow the protocols, treatment protocols. Quality we maintain at the supply end. The problem occurs, the danger occurs in the transmission and distribution, mostly in the distribution, mostly in the ferrule points, mostly in the joints. If we can take care of that, that is where we played a major role. That in Orissa, we understood this, and we have rewritten the policy, water policy. We said that individual house connection is government's responsibility. It would be treated as a public work, not a private work. So we took up that responsibility. We procured. It's like a regular water supply project. Up to that end, we have ensured so that there is no danger. I am not endangering my public water supply network system. You can't leave it to the individuals.
Srimati, if you don't mind, one more question, and then I'll.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, if you were to take, like Mr. Nandakumar said earlier, if you were to take a city like, say, Bangalore or even a Bombay, where we are going to double the population from its current level of about 1.2 crores to about 2.2 crores by 2030, not too far away, and where we do not have, any additional source of long distance water supply. We do not have. In Bangalore, definitely, I can tell you that. Today, Bangalore has about 200 crore liters, and by government's own official estimates, we have about 400 crore liters per day required by 2030 or 2032. In cities like Bangalore, therefore, would you advocate the same kind of approaches that you have taken of centralized solutions in Bhubaneswar or in Puri?
Sir, it may be difficult for a metro to start with. It may be doable for several medium town cities. If you take Karnataka, except Bangalore, all other cities are medium or small. So, except Bangalore, you can easily do in other cities, wherever your water supply system is sustainable. Maybe in Bangalore, you can start with a few zones. May not be the city as a whole. The entire city can be divided into several zones, and maybe on a sample basis, piloting basis, you can start with a few zones and keep scaling up. In fact, when we implemented also, we started with a pilot. Few zones, 8 zones in Bhubaneswar and 4 zones in Puri, where our pilot zones, 12 zones. So we learned a lot from the pilot zones, and then fine-tuned the whole model and then replicated it. And every zone will require a different approach. It's all contextual. And they are all simple.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Hari, for that intervention. At this stage, I would like to ask Professor Pradeep if he has any views on what has been discussed so far, and would like to share his thoughts.
Well, what a great pleasure to participate in this meeting. First of all, let me thank the Prem Jain Memorial Trust for this, and Dr. Hariharan and pioneering practitioners have told you what all possible. Ashok Nadarajan and Mati Vadanan, they both have done fantastic work, and as all of us know this. But the thought that I want to add here is that water, of course, is we just have 4% of the global water. This is not going to change. And the population, of course, we are going to go higher and higher in that. And the way world is changing and India is changing, of course, this 18%, 90 will become 19 or 20%. Expectations are going to change. Obviously, no water is going to come from the space. So when Mati talked about providing drinking water, we are also talking about managing water, not just water that you drink, but water for agriculture, water for industry. One is talking about the entire system of water. And that is connecting one to circularity. Obviously, one is talking about this 10% of water that we are talking about drinking. That is a smaller fraction of that large 70% agricultural water and 20% industrial water is rough numbers. So obviously there is much more to be done in that, and this, what one is talking about, the circularity, includes that larger thing also. This is one thing that we need to keep in mind. But one thing that I am constantly concerned about is that 2047, that is 100 years of freedom, is very close. It is just 25 years away. But in this 25 years, world is going to be largely digital. Water is going to be felt by all of us digitally. As Mati talked about, quality is going to come on our mobile phone, right? Our expectations are changing. And we look at water like electricity. We don't feel electricity because electricity is there everywhere. Water has to be there. Switch on, water comes. Think, water comes. It should be like network. And that is what people are going to expect. And that involves quite a bit of additional thoughts. We are talking not about water for us. We are talking water for our children. 25 years from now, when the 10-year-olds rule this country, they become the producers or movers of the economy. Their expectations are going to be tremendously different. So this is the other thought that we need to put in. I also feel that water for all, water futures. This was Hariharan put it as water futures. It is not future, it is futures. Everyone's future is very different. Just as what Ashok Natarajan talked about, water for each person is different, just as food is different. And the expectations of that water is different. Water in Ladakh is different from water in Tamil Nadu or somewhere else. So we need to find newer solutions for that water. I know that in Ladakh, the same kind of toilets that we use won't function now. It's a different kind of recycling that one has to do. So completely different technologies are needed for that water to be water 24/7, for futures of water for everyone. And today we recognize this global connectivity in terms of CO2, but water is also globally connected. And that thought about global water has to be there too. And that for people, estimate this number, the money that is needed for that water is something like 60 or 70 trillion dollars globally, people say. We don't have resources for it. So we need to also think in terms of that global crisis. India, like Tagore said, it is when we talk about our freedom, we are not talking about our freedom, we are talking about global freedom. This is the other thought that I would like to all of us to think about. And I know that because everything cannot be talked about in the limited time, it may not have been mentioned, but we have to keep this in a larger context. That's all that I would like to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Pradeep. I think you touched upon the next 25 years. We have just talked about the current challenges, but there are also future challenges in India as well as globally. And the opportunity of digital is something that we can bear in mind to address those challenges, which is an opportunity. So just expanding on that thought, I would like to ask Mr. Ashok Natarajan that see, we talked about clean water, NRW reduction, and last mile connectivity for drinking water. Obviously, there is a lot more usage of water beyond drinking and domestic itself. And there is a used water which comes out. So we have to close the loop. Circularity was mentioned by Professor Pradeep. So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on closing the loop with the used water, grey water recycling, and is there an integrated solution we can look at where communities can recycle effectively and not waste water? Because I think somewhere I'm sensing that it's not a closed loop, it's an open loop, it's just running into the sea. So how important it is, and what is it that we can do in improving water security with used water?
Thank you, Nandakumar. See, I'm a great patron of integrated water resource management. Actually, you need to link up from your basin management itself to achieve sustainable economic, social, and environmental goals. So very important is, instead of just as what we are doing, building monstrous centralized treatment facilities with a lot of concrete and cement going into it, we should look at smart mix of decentralized solutions, which could be packaged, plus also nature-based system. The blue-green economy. Today, the world is talking about net zero emissions, a reduction of energy required. Today, 50% of our energy in any of the utilities, 50% of the cost or the revenue that they make, 50% of the money goes towards salaries and electricity. So what I'm saying is, rain is decentralized. Rainfall is decentralized. So really, we can also make demand decentralized. So I'm a great patron that we should move towards simple systems of decentralized systems, wherein you can link it to the basin level, and you also treat the runoffs. You make retaining requirements, the aquifer improvements, all based on natural systems, based on your lake restoration, your canal linking, and all the other approaches that you would really have. And that is a very, very important thing. For example, in large metros, there is room. You might say there is no land requirement. Decentralized doesn't require a great deal of land. It has dawned on the metro cities very late to really go for this. That's why people like Bangalore, Chennai are all launching on this right now. My take in that is that today it's very much possible to do a lot of decentralization using a mix of nature-based solution, which could be hybrid, which could be gray, it could be green, any of the terminologies. I know that there are a lot of architectural and urban planners who are attending this particular thing. I feel we have missed out on the urban planning itself totally. We have lost the customer's voice, except Mr. Madhivanan a few years back really saw the customers were aggrieved. And he looked at that and he approached the entire problem. So my feeling is that this is a very hard think tank that we need to do. It's not based on rocket science. It's not based on technology. But as Dr. Pradeep put it, a digital economy, digital utility will play a major role. It started playing. We are now got excellent predictive sensors, what they call as machine language. This whole sector is dominated by Indian software Python programmers, but they only lack the domain and the application. It's all very inexpensive. You can know a wastewater or RNA of a COVID in a wastewater system within a few seconds. Today, all these things are being implemented today post-COVID in almost every country. And I would say this revolution would have to take place here. So a mix of decentralization, nature-based solutions, digital utility is the future by means of which we can safeguard our resource of water. To
Thank
be very
you.
frank with you, I just wanted to add one point. Mr. Hariharan
Sure.
asked about Bangalore. I have some statistics about Bangalore. You will be surprised. It's a published data, sir. It's a published data by a very big international agency called ResearchGate. They produce 930 mld of water. The loss of water is 474.3 mld. I'm quoting from the research report. More than 7,000 to 8,000 crores of investment. Probably Orissa has spent probably 1/10 of it or 1/20th of it. If you really see, after all this program, still the loss, they have all the big multinationals working there. They have Suez, L&T, every single company. The utility has devolved the responsibility to the private players. Is this the right approach? Today, the loss is still at 51%. I took this study about 6 months back, still, and they are losing. Bangalore, after all these investments by Japanese, still loses 103 crores annually. And today you are increasing the capacities. You're saying it's going to be from a 1 crore city to a 2 crore city. They are going to come from the 5th stage of Kaveri. They are going to bring water from another 100 kilometers, multiple pumping. It's a disaster. We need to think very closely, and that is true. I just took the example of Bangalore. Chennai is not very far off. Every city, small, big. And that is why I think decentralization with predictive analytics and nature-based system is the way to go in these in the future as we go about it.
Thank you, Ashok. I would like to take Mr. Mati's opinion on this. He's from the government, and Mati, what do you think between centralized and decentralized approach for both drinking water and used water recycling? What would you prefer? And also between private and public participation, do you think privatizing water distribution is a good idea? And what do you really expect from the user's participation level? I'm saying we have a lot of end users in the audience. What is it that you expect from them? You may stretch out a hand. Do you want them to stretch a hand and shake it, or how is it going to work, or is it entirely the government's responsibility all the way?
Sir, when it comes to drinking water, whether it should be a centralized or a decentralized, it depends upon the source. If you have a river source nearby, then it can be a centralized. If you are depending on the groundwater, then it has to be a decentralized.
Okay, great.
But when it comes to investment, it has to be from the government. We have executed, we in the entire country, Odisha we have executed the only PPP in the drinking water sector that caters to the domestic, institutional, and industrial. All, it's a comprehensive, and it's a unique project. Based on my experience, I can say that the government should invest in water. It should not leave it to the private.
You're saying
even
the Chandigarh model, where they are saying you cannot, as an individual, as a private consumer, I cannot exploit groundwater, only the government can do. Is that the model you are advocating, Mr. Mati?
We have not yet put that stipulation, but we are thinking of doing it. But no, right now, see, if they have their own domestic water supply system, borewell system, we only encourage them to migrate to our system. But otherwise, we are not compelling, but we have to, watch the situation. If it is only for domestic purpose, their own consumption, there is no issue. But if it is a commercial exploitation, then we may have to, groundwater conservation, we need to watch over it.
As you know, Chandigarh has made a blanket ban. If you are a private user, you cannot exploit groundwater, period. And there are stiff penalties. In fact, there is also, I think, 6 months of incarceration.
Maybe over exploitation or those kind of things.
So it may be situational or contextual, depending on the particular geography. So, Mr. Mati, you're saying even if it were decentralized based on the groundwater scenario, you are saying it should be government which should invest.
Government should invest in water, sir. We cannot leave it to the private. Then profit margin comes in, exploitation, higher margin, all those things you are encouraging that. Then you become a side partner and the private player becomes the prime partner. You can't leave the consumer to the to the private partner who operates on a profit motive.
On the other hand, efficiency was something which is a question mark in many government, undertaking. So I just,
sir, government per se is not inefficient, sir.
I know,
Government can be efficient.
okay.
So we have converted our water department to the WATCO, Water Corporation of Odisha,
Okay.
where all these reforms we have done under the WATCO only.
Okay.
Again, it depends upon the leadership and the government, the political will to reform the sector.
When it comes to discharge water, you heard Mr. Ashok say that there have to be localized solutions linked to basins. What is your take on that, Mr.
You are talking about the used water, sir?
Yes.
Yes, discharge water.
Yeah.
Yes.
Used water, in fact, Odisha, we are the pioneer in the decentralized used water management system. We introduced the septage at the city level. So the country's first 6 septage treatment plants were commissioned in Odisha. The country's first 6. So now that we started the journey, septage journey in the year 2016. Now almost 90-95% of our cities have septage treatment facilities. And in another 6 to 8 months, all our cities would have reached that 100% treatment of the septage. So we believe in decentralized sewage, septage management and grey water management. So centralized, sir, we have centralized in Bhubaneswar, we have centralized in Cuttack. Large cities, we have the centralized underground sewer network system, which is very capital intensive. O&M is very high, lots of difficulties. And it is extremely difficult to, construct a underground sewer system. And it's
the kind of thought that you're talking about is extremely highly noble. But a country like ours, I mean, government to manage water, it's very important. But in a country like ours, where resources are limited, oftentimes water is put against other kinds of essential requirements like transport, schooling, and many others. So where do you prioritize is a concern that people have. Now, whenever a private investment comes in, this is being raised as one of the reasons. How do we find resources? Yes, nobody is going to question this thing that water belongs to all. How do you take this, Mati?
Sir, now Coimbatore is implementing the 24/7. Pune is implementing 24/7. Chandigarh is implementing 24/7 with the external funding. So, see, have a private partner, then all these things will come in. But in our experience, we are now working in 20 cities, sir. Not one city. 20 cities across the state, we have varied experience. And the capex is not very high, and OPEX also is not very high. If we operate it, if government operates, if there is a political will, we can do it, sir. And sir, already see, the private sector has a huge interest in the water business, whether it is the water tanker business or mineral water business. There is a huge private interest. You need to have a very strong political will to overcome that.
Okay.
And it's doable. State like Odisha, poor state like Odisha can do it. Why not other states?
Yeah, that's well put. Dr. Hari, 7:15. Do you think we should open for Q&A or?
Yeah, we should. There are Q&A is.
There are some questions. I thought I would pick them. One, Mr. Gunjan Kumar has asked, sir, what is the monitoring system you put in place in order to ensure quality at the consumer end? Which I think you explained in terms of the Jalsati, but
no, we have anything more? No, sir. We have a smart water management system, sir. It is an in-house. We developed a software, in-house software. We have not procured. And at every 200 meter, we can measure the pressure, velocity, all the parameters. At every 5-second interval, we capture the data and analyze. And it's an automated system.
Even quality data?
Yes. When the quality drops, immediately the concerned pressure valve will stop. And there will be a chlorine doser system automatically activated. It's a completely automated. Otherwise, we cannot underwrite for the quality. It's a huge risk.
Okay, so this is put in place in Puri and will be extended to all other.
Yes. And it's an in-house software, and it is easy to do that. And Odisha is the only place where an industrial IoT has been deployed across the city for the water. Industrial IoT.
Okay,
Sorry.
fine. There's some anonymous question I would ask Mr. Ashok to maybe respond to. What do I do at my personal level to clean water in my city? I mean, is there something that comes to your mind because this is something that people want to contribute, but
we can organize Shramdan to clean up the water bodies, sir. There are several water bodies craving for cleaning up.
Okay.
The local communities, the youth club, and volunteers can join together and clean up those things.
Okay. So this either panelist can answer. It's saying tackling the socio-economical issues related to water at the grassroots level. How effective will it be if you curate some programs for students of higher education? Will there be any value add to their careers if someone pursues it? So Ashok, maybe would you like to take this as a career option for people in water?
Yeah, I feel I agree with him. It's a very, very good career option to become good water engineers. I'm not saying water engineer in the per se of design. What India lacks is the operational ability. Today, name it Manila, any city you walk in, Asian success stories, I'm not taking Europe or America or anything like that. It is the simple people who have come learn the basics. So we can definitely introducing curriculum which are practical, which talks about all these initiatives, which talks about also modules on leadership, non-revenue, debt collection, ability to manage the network with some hands-on feeling, field experience of how to actually attend to a leak issue. All these things add up, and this can be a good career option. I say in US and Canada, the wastewater engineers are paid as highly. They're simple operators. You have to get an accreditation. Today, we don't have any accreditation. People are operating sewage treatment plants, very sophisticated, millions of dollars investments on state-of-the-art water reuse, attended by immature and undergraduate. It remains only in paper. So what I am saying is we don't give importance. Always the contractor who comes in, front loads his bid on the capex. He takes 90 to 95% of the money when he's actually implementing the project, and he gives very little to the O&M. He can afford only very poor quality people with no accreditation. Today, I would suggest people like Orissa to IIT, ICCW, you should start certification program. In Canada or US or Europe, they will not allow you to enter into a STP without the basic certification. Similarly, it is for NRW. Sir was mentioning, some time back, bogus fake plumbers. That's a very common thing in India. So you have to know, and that is very important. And this is a very, very good career option, sir. But it has to be made as practical. As I said in the beginning, we need to learn how to run a utility. That is what we lack.
Well, besides this, I like to add that for those of you who are listening, youngsters, water is also good business. Water is good innovation. Water is good startup. Water is a good way, good to make money, but also to good satisfying money.
Yes.
There are different aspects of that water, that involvement that we can talk about, and our institutions should be open to that as well, besides teaching. And there are opportunities today for investment into startups as well.
Yeah, so I would like to
have a lot more questions. Sharik, Mohan Kumar.
I would like to add also from ICCW's point of view, we are in touch with several startups, fantastic minds working on various aspects of water management. And as I speak, there are two challenges which are coming up. One is the Atal Innovation Mission, which is closing in a few days. those who are interested can log in and participate in this water challenge. Amrit is coming up with a challenge in the next month. So there are going to be a lot of money that is available for startups. If somebody is interested in an idea, I think this is the time to showcase it and seek to participate. So there is another question on which I would ask Mr. Mati to address is how do you integrate LIG, MIG, high-rise housing society, grey water management with government supply drinking water networks? And how do you manage this demand supply accounting? Is there a fluctuation in demand, and how do you, I think the question, how do you handle the supply demand fluctuation, and how do you integrate grey water management with the government supply drinking water network?
Grey water management, we are trying to address in a decentralized manner. Right now, wherever the underground sewer network system is not there, then the toilet waste goes to the septic tank at the household level. Then the septage is treated separately. We have put up the septage treatment plant, and the grey water is normally so far it has not been addressed. The waste from the bathroom and the kitchen. So now we are working on the household level, community level, and the city level infrastructure to handle the grey water through the soak pit kind of thing. The individual household level soak pit, or the community level soak pit and recharging pit, or whatever is the surplus over and above that at the city level. We are piloting in 2 cities, and soon we will be coming up with the replicable model across the country. We are working on it. In the absence of underground sewer system, you have to go for separate standalone grey water management system.
Okay. Then there is a question. I would request people to post it on the Q&A box. Some are posting onto the chat box. One question says, how do you manage evaporation losses? Is there something that is coming up in this water management? Evaporation losses? Is that because you're accounting for water? I think the context is there a
evaporation losses at the reservoir level or the river level?
Yeah.
That we are not
monitoring.
We are yet to reach that level.
Okay. Are there outages in the water supply? If so, what happens? People don't have a backup.
No, wherever we have the 24/7 now.
Yeah.
The incidents management will be taken up. There will be standby one.
The government takes care of
yes,
alternatives.
Yes. Okay. Immediately the government tanker would supply syntax tank and all those things would be. That situation has not happened so far.
Okay. So I think there are some questions. I'm not sure whether.
Yeah, the one question for you, I think, where maybe Mr. Ashok can take it. See, you said groundwater also has to be sort of managed by the state, extraction, treatment, etc. One gentleman is asking, Mohammed Sharik, what can be done to reduce groundwater contamination in zones where groundwater is already contaminated? How can you remove, existing contamination and protect it from the future? For Mr. Mati.
The groundwater contamination, we have to take care of our sewage and septage. That's what we have to do. If you can capture all the sewage.
I think it means that, in regions where you have higher fluoride, you have higher arsenic, that kind of contamination.
Yeah, that kind of thing, then you have to take up specific treatment system for
treatment systems.
Yes.
And you believe that the government needs to be doing those?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, we have a district called Noapada. The entire district has fluoride problem.
Correct.
So now we are going for a centralized river water based, surface water based system. We are creating a water grid, pumping water from the river for 60 kilometers from the city, and then treating and then supplying for the entire district. You have to invest in that water. When the groundwater is contaminated, you cannot.
So how much of water that is supplied in Orissa is groundwater? What percentage, and how much is surface water approximately?
In urban, I can say that it would be 70% river and 30% groundwater, roughly.
I see.
Now we are migrating. Even that 30% also, now we are migrating to
river
water.
Okay, because one concern, see the recent Chennai floods, we keep hearing this. Why did it happen? And one of the things that has been mentioned is that the surface water level table was so high that when it rained, the water had nowhere to go and it just flooded. So I'm just asking this question that if we do not tap surface water and we have a centralized supply, but where people are living, there is a high surface water table, would that result in flooding? And if so, what could the state do to prevent flooding?
Sir, urban flooding is increasingly becoming a big danger. Every city is now facing that.
Yeah.
Sudden, downpour of unheard magnitude, unprecedented magnitude. So that every city is experiencing. Bhubaneswar also is experiencing. We need to catch with that emerging situation. But the thing is that it's also a fact that we have concretized most of the surface. The runoff has increased. The more development, more concreting, more paved, and then so we have reduced the absorption or the percolation points. So we are working on rainwater harvesting structures in a massive way. Earlier, our focus has been on rooftop rainwater harvesting. Then we realized that we are only targeting 20% of the area, open area, by targeting the roof, the rooftop. So 80% is the vacant land, road, park, playground. So now we are focusing on that 80%. Every park, every playground, every roadside, we are constructing rainwater harvesting. So
question was also more on, even in Chennai, rainwater harvesting was being done. Now the question was on, are we monitoring groundwater level in such a way that when it rains, there is enough capacity in the ground to absorb that water? That is what happened in Chennai. It was not surface runoff. The water table was already very high. There was no way even recharge wells could cope with that kind of water. So if this is going to happen, I don't know, because it seems to be happening quite fairly regularly now, that excessive rain and the ground is not able to hold it. I suppose this may require a separate discussion, but it seems that if we do not tap groundwater.
Kumar, you see, natural water, urban water balance has to be followed. Chennai has concretized everything and not actually finished those stormwater lines in many of the locations. And even so, that whatever has been implemented the last 10 years, for example, even places like KK Nagar was underwater for close to a month, very posh areas. This is because you have actually reduced, you have given room by not having natural vegetated cover. See, what I will tell you the point, how Beijing, there is an excellent case study. Beijing is one of the largest cities in the world. They had the same flooding problem, chronic problem. About 10 years back, they launched this program called as the Sponge program, which is again a nature-based system, which actually, what it does is actually delay, store, and put the runoffs and balances with the groundwater itself. And today it is possible. Unfortunately, I've been telling also in Chennai to look at these aspects, just not putting blindly. See, for example, in the East Coast Road of Chennai, people have refused to, the citizens have really gone ahead and said, I don't want government to lay my pipelines. There was a big halagulla on that. There was a big problem in that. All the contractors are awarded jobs, they didn't allow. What was the thing is that they said, the citizens knew it better. Each of the streets in the East Coast Road, that they have a very good aquifer below. All that they need is simple infiltration and preventing the runoff to the sea to store that water. So these are the homegrown solutions, and we need to think on this. I think the Prem Jain Foundation gives a lot of importance to greening. I think this message, especially with our urban planners, this is something all our water engineers don't understand. The civil engineers don't understand, don't want to understand also. So you have to be very good in this. We can implement these things. I've been telling CPHO to introduce this. I know even Mr. Madhivardhanan has started a program. I think so. You started something on what you call as a water sensitive program and things like that. I was told by Dr. Rohila that you started this program. It's
Yes,
a very good move. He started thinking ahead of it, but this urban flooding is going to be there. We have to take preemptive measures. Every city in the world is going underwater. It's not that only related to only to India, but the life lost and the properties lost can be much lower. This is very important. And this is something we need to take. And this requires an entire different spectrum of skill requirement. And that is why I say this is required in our curriculum to bring it in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With stalwarts like you, we can listen to you for the next 6 hours. And I can assure you that I will not go to sleep. Listening to Mr. Mati as a government officer today, I can tell you, Mr. Mati, I have heard many of you, but the way your DNA to the approach to managing water, I have not heard of this for some years now. I've been listening to many people for 20 years. So I must say that today has been a very, very educative session for me. And Mr. Ashok Natarajan has lived up to what I saw as a glimpse in 1 or 2 sessions that I heard him. And we have a lot more to learn from you, Mr. Natarajan. And we will call you for that Bangalore session another day. I will steal you from Chennai for Wow Bangalore also one day. And Mr. Nantkumar, over to you to close at 7:34.
Yeah, thanks. So I won't take much time. I think it's thank you both panelists for an exhilarating session, and Mr. Pradeep for your valuable insights, and also Dr. Hari for your timely interventions on several occasions. So I'm just summing up, I just tried to capture some notes. First thing I picked up is you need a missionary zeal. So that's something which stays in my mind. And I don't think it is necessary only for the government authorities or chief ministers or secretaries to have this. All of us should have this kind of a zeal. And the last mile. So the user point is something that if you take care of the end consumer, everything will get taken care of. So this is my takeaway today, that there's no point in doing too much of activity at the source, but just take care of the delivery point and everything will get addressed. And if we do that, and as Mr. Mati said, that people are willing to invest some 10,000 rupees in a contractor to dig the ground and lay the last mile pipeline. So people are willing to share the capex cost also. It appears to me that because they know the source is good and reliable. So people's participation will come automatically if the administration is going all the way, and thereafter there is a reduction. So we are expecting people to conserve water, but when there is no supply, they will only store more and probably waste more. So if there is supply coming and they are assured 24/7 with quality, they will not unnecessarily waste, and they are willing to pay a price. If slum dwellers are paying a price, I don't see why citizens of Chennai should object, right? So this is it's a big learning for me, that people are willing to pay. And at the end of the day, the government is actually not losing money. I heard somewhere that Bangalore is spending 10 times more than Orissa, but not making. But NRW, because all that money we are spending is going down the drain. It's not really going down. Hopefully, if it goes down the drain, it's good. Because even before it reaches the drain, it is getting leaked in the underground. So if we reduce NRW, and that is not again a mission, it's based on reaching the end consumer. So if we focus on the consumer, all these things get taken care of. 24/7 becomes a necessary condition, not an end goal. So I suppose, and there are careers in water that we talked about for youngsters. It looks like everybody can contribute. It looks like if we have a favorable climate, we can address all the problems. And as Professor mentioned, that the future has a lot of exciting opportunities, trillions of dollars or something like that. I heard even tens of trillions of dollars. So that's a kind of power that water has. And as I started off by saying, water is essence of life. So, and it is something very dear to us. So I don't foresee any challenge in people working together. I think there were 58 people today. Maybe for some more would have watched it live on YouTube. I don't know.
About 84.
84 at the peak, is it?
Yeah,
okay.
And after Mr. Mati stopped it, ended his piece, they all dropped out.
Okay.
So
that's a good success for today. And once again, thank you all for contributing and a patient hearing at the other.
Absolutely. Thank you so
very
much for educating us, both of you. Thank you, Mr. Nandakumar, for a wonderful session that you offered us.
Thank you, Mr. Mati. Thank you, Ashok. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Deepa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah,
It was
thank
a
you,
lovely
Payal.
session.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you very much.
And a day after is the main day, the memorial address. We have
Yes.
K.T. Ravindran coming in, the Doyen of Architecture, many others. It's at 2 p.m. Of course, we will send you all the invites. If you have time, we'll be very happy to have. It'll be a brilliant session, I can assure you. There are 3 people who are speaking. Shiv Khera is also there. Starts at 2 p.m. We'll send you the invite. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I must acknowledge the presence of R.K. Sumari. Sumari Saab, thank you for being here. I know you can't speak. He's the chairperson of Hinduair, which was started in 1961 or 1960 or so. It's today a very large company, as you all know. We have Dr. Raj Rajaram from Chicago, a few others from the US who are there today. Thank you, all of you, for being here. That's it. That's it from us, I think, today. Thank you, Mr. Mati, once again to you and Mr. Ashok. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.